If you are frugal with money, this might be the reason. You're standing in line at a coffee shop.
Here you go.
The person ahead of you orders a $7 oat milk latte without hesitation. You watch them like they just donated a kidney to a stranger. You order the drip coffee, black, $2.50. And on the walk back to your table, you do the math. That's $4.50 saved, $31.50 a week, $1,638 a year. You could invest that. Here's the thing though, you're not broke. You might actually be doing fine, but something in your brain just will not let go of the money. What if that's not a personality flaw? What if it's not even really about money? Psychologists have found that the brain experiences financial loss roughly twice as painfully as equivalent financial gain, a phenomenon called loss aversion. Your frugality might be less about your bank account and more about how your nervous system learned to stay safe. And today, we're going to trace that back to the source. Let's be clear about something first. Not all frugality is created equal. There's the frugality of someone who genuinely values simplicity, who finds joy in owning less, spending less, living lightly. And then there's the frugality of someone who grips every dollar like it might be the last one they ever see, not from wisdom, but from a low-frequency hum of financial dread that never quite goes away. Researchers Mullainathan and Shafir wrote an entire book about what they called the scarcity mindset, and what they found is striking. When people perceive resource scarcity, even unconsciously, their cognitive bandwidth actually narrows. They become laser-focused on the shortage, which means other thinking, creative thinking, long-term planning, even emotional regulation gets crowded out. In other words, scarcity doesn't just affect your wallet, it rewires your attention. And here's where it gets personal. For many people, that scarcity signal isn't coming from their current bank balance, it's coming from a much older memory. Maslow's model of human needs places financial security at the very base of the pyramid, survival tier. When your nervous system learned early that money was unpredictable, inconsistent, or tied to conflict, it built a guard dog. And that guard dog doesn't always update when the circumstances change. Here's the uncomfortable paradox at the center of frugality. The behavior designed to create peace often creates more anxiety. Think about someone with $200,000 in savings who still feels physically ill spending $12 on lunch. The behavior has completely decoupled from its original purpose. The guard dog is still barking at a door that's already locked. This happens because the brain's stress system, the HPA axis, doesn't distinguish well between real financial threat and imagined one. Chronic vigilance about money keeps a low-grade cortisol response running in the background. It's not a full panic, it's more like financial tinnitus, a constant low hum. Psychologists call this a cognitive miser pattern. The brain, trying to avoid the exhausting complexity of spending decisions, defaults to a rigid rule: just don't spend. It's efficient, it's also a trap. Because when frugality becomes avoidance, when it's about not confronting deeper fears rather than actually building security, it stops being a strategy and starts being a symptom. So where does frugal behavior actually come from? Think of it like a tree. Most people only see the leaves, the behavior, the habits, the spreadsheets, but frugality has 3 distinct root systems, and knowing which one is yours changes everything. Root 1. Trauma-rooted frugality. Research on adverse childhood experiences, what psychologists call ACEs, shows that financial instability or stress in childhood measurably increases money avoidance and hoarding behaviors in adulthood. The nervous system learned that money was a dangerous ground, so it built walls. Root 2. Personality-rooted frugality. For some people, this has very little to do with fear. High conscientiousness, one of the big 5 personality traits, is strongly correlated with delayed gratification, careful planning, and disciplined saving.
This is the person who genuinely finds deep satisfaction in watching their investment account grow. Interestingly, neuroscience suggests why. Researcher Wolfram Schultz's work on dopamine shows that for certain brain types, the anticipation of future reward, not the reward itself, triggers the pleasurable dopamine response. Saving isn't just rational for these people, it feels good. Frugality is chosen behavior, and chosen behavior, as self-determination theory tells us, produces well-being in a way that fear-driven behavior never can. The question isn't whether you're frugal, it's which tree are you growing from. This gets even more interesting when you zoom out generationally, because frugality is frequently inherited without a single direct conversation about it. Social learning theory tells us that children model parental financial behavior through observation alone. If your mother silently tensed when a bill arrived, you learned something. If your father said, "We can't afford that," in a tone that meant danger rather than facts, you learned something. You didn't just learn a money habit, you absorbed a nervous system response. And there's emerging research suggesting the transmission may go even deeper. Studies on epigenetic stress transmission, including fascinating work with mice by Diaz and Bhattacharya, suggest that fear responses can be biochemically transmitted across generations. Applied metaphorically to human financial anxiety, your grandmother's Depression-era financial terror may still be faintly echoing in how you feel when you open your bank app. Generationally, this plays out with fascinating variation. Boomers raised in post-war frugality cultures often weaponized saving as a moral virtue. Spending was weakness. Millennials who graduated into the 2008 financial crisis rebranded their financial anxiety as minimalism. And Gen Z? They invented loud budgeting, openly talking about not spending as a kind of social flex. Same root, different aesthetic. We are living through a quiet cultural rebellion against consumption. The FIRE movement, Financial Independence, Retire Early, has attracted millions who see frugality not as deprivation but liberation. No spend challenges go viral. Anti-haul videos outperform haul videos. Cottagecore and de-influencing trends are essentially collective psychological recalibration against a dopamine economy designed to drain your wallet and your attention simultaneously. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation, the discovery that spending more rarely produces lasting happiness. You buy the thing, the dopamine spike lasts maybe 72 hours, then it's furniture. Your brain already wants the next thing. The frugal instinct, it turns out, might be one of the more psychologically sophisticated responses to modern consumer culture. The problem is only when it comes from fear rather than freedom. So here's what I want to leave you with. Your frugality is not a flaw to fix. It's a signal to understand. If it comes from trauma, the work isn't to spend more. It's to gently examine whether the guard dog is protecting you or imprisoning you. If it comes from your personality, honor it and maybe loosen the grip just enough to enjoy the present you're actually in. And if it comes from values, keep going. That kind of frugality is one of the quietest forms of freedom available in the modern world. The goal is never to spend more. The goal is to spend from choice, not from fear. There's a meaningful difference, and your nervous system, your bank account, and your quality of life will all feel it. Which root system is yours? Trauma, personality, or values? Drop it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious, and your answer might help someone else finally name something they've felt for years. And if this kind of psychology deep dive is your thing, you know what to do.